Hello there, I'm Zach, and today I'll be showing you how I do it. This video is not made for kids. I'll be showing dangerous and toxic materials that are potentially hazardous. Children should not have access to this, and please take the proper safety requirements when replicating this process. Miniature modeling and filming has been my passion in life. I'm not the best though, but I'm always improving, so let's dive into it. The Postman, which was an iconic piece of prop used throughout Season 4 to the later model series of the show. I've always liked this prop, ever since it debuted in My That Bike. So I thought it would work quite well in the background of my videos. Now, I could have just bought the Ertl diecast of the model, but I would like a challenge, and a challenge I got. To make this model, I decided to use Tinkercad, which is a basic 3D design software that allows a user to have easy access and control over what they're building, using the template and the basic 3D designs that are already made, so they can be altered and changed in size. Whenever I start making a model, I start with a basic shape, which can be altered when dragging the little dots around. Please take note I was eyeballing how big the postman was. This is not a good technique, but we all have to start somewhere, don't we? Along with your basic shapes already pre-made, there are also pre-made parts, such as tools, furniture, and people. This was most useful when it came down to designing the van's iconic shape. For all the objects within the software, there is a setting menu for them, where you can change them into holes. This setting allows you to cut holes within other objects of that shape. To make life easier from scrolling through the parts, there is a duplication feature which allows for me to duplicate any object that I select. When rotating the object, I select the two arrows pointing in opposite directions, then slowly use my mouse to turn the object around. It took a little bit to get the overall shape right, but I was soon happy with the result. When designing the windows, I put round circles in each corner to give it more of a smoother look. When doing the actual window, I do it in parts. This is because none of the pre-made blocks are able to make the funny shape of the window. In order to get this funny shape, especially the front bit, as it's on a curve, I downloaded the file. Then I opened a new tab and hit import. After selecting and importing, using hollow blocks, I cut out the part I was going to be needing, which was just a small piece of the front. Using the small circles that I cut out earlier to find how big I have to cut it. When trying to save your work, click the Tinkercad logo in the corner. I downloaded the model, then uploaded it into the original file. I repeated this process for the top of the window as well. For the rest of the window, I decided to use the full-on block, but when looking back on the postman, I noticed the bottom side of the window is on a slight curve. This meant I had to redesign the window, but thankfully I was able to duplicate the top piece. To make life easier, I decided to open a new document, then upload the model into it. Now I did try and replicate the curved nature of the van in each corner, but due to the limitations of Tinkercad, I was unable to do this. I applied the same tactic for using a circle in the corner of each window for the front. I used the previous hole as a point of reference on how big the window was. Now in the corner, there's something called Snap Grip, which controls how freely your block moves. When trying to make something look even, I'll place a block right in the center of the model, so I don't mess up on the other side when I come to replicate it. Making sure it's even on each side is highly recommended. Much like the side windows, the cutting out of the window was done in pieces. And for the back, I just used two blocks to cut out the holes. For the wheel arches, I used the pre-made half circle and turned it into a hollow block. To make the wheel arches, I used a circle and donut. This donut was going to provide the curved in ends on the wheel arches. Cut away the extruding pieces, Opening up the model came next, along with the tail lights. A spear was used for tips of the tail lights. With the top of the postband done, I moved on to adding the grille. After making an estimate on how big it should be, I took down the measurements. Replicating the measurements, I began designing the front grille. The overall shape of the grille was easy to design. Once satisfied, I downloaded and uploaded again. After doing some touch-ups on the model, I began the tedious task of doing the indents in the grille.
Poor Henry.
To raise an object without altering it, there's a little arrow which you can click and drag and move around. That's when I realized I forgot to do the headlights. The chassis was thankfully simple, as all I needed to do was place a block underneath the model, stretch it out to the ends of the model, and then fill in the gap in the middle, make a copy, then hollow it out. While test fitting the chassis, I drilled out holes for the wheels. I add round roofs to the bottom so the wheels don't break off when printing. So here's a little fact about me. I hate making tires. So, finger gives. After receiving the model, I did some minor modifications to it to better suit the model. After that, it was time for printing. For printing out the model, my school has generously given me the resin printer keys so I can print out my model, which did a pretty good job. So thank you, school. So after receiving the model, I noticed many harsh indents from the supports that were printed with the model. So my first round of sanding and removing excess parts began. After sanding down the large humps that I could see, I decided to spray the model in a Tamiya spray. This process revealed quite a bit, as it revealed how rough I was when sanding it. So I pulled out an old trick of mine, acrylic paint. So what I do with the acrylic is I just apply some onto the model, then rub it in with my finger. This tends to fill in the gaps and cracks within the model. It took a few coats of paint and primer, but soon I was ready for the first coat of red. Masking tape was applied to the top of the roof as it was already grey. When picking the paint out, I didn't know what to pick, so I bought a paint that looked the part without reading it. Testing it, I found it had some sort of glitter and shine to it, which was a metallic red. So, with that plan kicked out the door, I decided to try an acrylic paint that I got a while ago. I used a sponge to paint the model over a paintbrush because I didn't want large brush strokes across the model. To help make it smoother, I did a technique that I call pressure painting. All I need for this is to grab an old paintbrush, a glass of water, and the paint I was using. I dipped the paintbrush in the paint, then mixed it in with the water, then put it onto the model and lightly pressed it against the model's paint. This rubbed off all the large lumps within the paint. I then did the black detail using Liquid X Basic Acrylic, which is phenomenally good when painting models. Doing some touch-ups and using a toothpick to paint the headlights with a little bit more pressure washing from my finger, the model was looking pretty good at this moment. Meanwhile, I painted the wheels and grille, as well as the chassis. While they were drying, I removed the masking tape from the roof of the van. Some cosmetic work had to be done on the roof, but I was soon satisfied. For the decals, more particularly the crown, I custom made some from golden sticker details. With that done, I tried doing the door detail. No, I don't want to talk about that, let's move on. After a quick repaint, I moved on to the lettering. I used dry transfers for this, which only requires to cut out the lettering, stick it down, and rub a pencil over it. At this rate, the top was pretty much done, but for the chassis, I was having a bit of trouble connecting the wheels together, as the wire I was using wouldn't stop bending on me. So I purchased brass and used it to hold it in place. This proved to be the effective method. Gluing everything together and a touch of weathering, the challenge was finished.